TG Geeks, episode 101, October 24th, 2016. Is this the Iserol episode? Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre.
You name it, we talk about it.
I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios at the Hyatt in lovely downtown Phoenix, Arizona.
Close enough. And I'm Ben Ragginson, and yes, this is episode High Five.
High five.
High five.
And we have a couple of special guests with us. We got Chuck Tomasi from the Technorama episode.
Those who don't listen to my show
Yeah.
have no idea what this crossover reference is.
Exactly. And we have our good friend from Los Angeles, Mr. Jonathan Latt.
Hey.
Author of the pulp fiction novel, The
Geek.
Hey.
And he's
What's
with
happening?
us. And so we're going to have a crazy episode here. And this is pre-Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fest. So we may actually release some other episodes around the Phoenix Comic-Con. So
We don't know yet.
we don't know yet. We're recording this on Friday night.
Yeah.
So here we go. We're going to have our opening sound. And I think we have an interview. So we'll see. And this time on our show, we have a comic book artist, Dave Beatty. Welcome to the show.
Finally.
And we have Russ Emanuel as well. So,
Hey.
so
Now, this is a
welcome,
blast
Dave.
from the past.
Yeah.
Well, I am, but not Dave.
Yeah. Welcome to the
No, but we've talked to Dave plenty of times outside of the studio, so it's
Yeah.
nice to finally have you here,
Yeah. Welcome,
Thank you.
Dave.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
especially now.
Yeah. You're a comic book artist, and you've been brought in on the comic book tie-in for Occupants, the movie. So give us a little history of how you kind of came about being a comic book artist and who you worked for, and what happened that spurred this.
How did you get on the hook?
How did you get on the hook for Occupants?
How did Russ hook you into this?
I've been a professional comic artist now for going on about 25 years. The majority of my work is self-published independent titles.
Mhm.
That's a huge bulk of my work. Titles like in the 90s, Star Gods, which was like a CGI digitally painted hybrid title, which is a science fiction series.
Interesting.
Which for people that are into that, the characters talk with Shakespearean dialogue. It's actually kind of a neat series. And over the years, eventually I started doing background artwork for Marvel Comics for a bunch of artists that lived in the area where I was. So I did backgrounds for titles like Guardians of the Galaxy and Alpha Flight. And I was actually on Alpha Flight for a year. That was the Steve Siegel series, and that's actually where I met Scott Clark. Scott and I got to be good friends, and over the course of our friendship, we worked on like more titles than I could even begin to list. But during my association with Scott, I worked for every major comic book publisher in the U.S.
Wow, so you honed your craft doing that.
Yes, and during that same time, because I used to say artist by night because I did a lot of that work at night, and I still maintained a day job where I was either doing illustration or graphic design at the same time. So while we would be working on, for example, X-Men Sword of the Braddocks at night, during the day I was actually doing editorial cartoons, and I was drawing a weekly comic strip called Captain Value, which is like a weird, you see the Hostess cupcake ads in the comic books.
Right.
This is the same thing, but it bestowed the kind of the values to the community of your community newspaper and the value of classified advertising and that kind of
I haven't seen
rigmarole.
some of that in a long time.
Yeah, and it was a fairly popular feature for a lot of the newspapers that it ran in, and it actually won an Arizona Newspapers Association award at one time.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, and so but during the course of that time, I've worked for Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Aspen, Dabu Brothers.
Wow.
I mean, you name them, I've probably worked for them.
Doing
and-
background work like.
Oh no, the main art.
Ooh, interesting.
So primarily as an inker, but I've also worked as a colorist. I've done some penciling work. So because Scott came from the Homage Studios group, like Jim Lee's group, and a lot of the ways it seemed like a lot of the way the artists were trained, you came in and you started out doing backgrounds, and eventually you learned to mimic a little bit the style of the artist that you were working with, so that when things got tough, you could pinch in order to get pages out.
Oh, cool.
So I can do a pretty decent Scott Clark imitation when I need to. And for example, on Cry for Justice, Justice League Cry for Justice, the James Robinson series, at one point I was actually drawing a lot of the figures on that series, and nobody even knows. So it's one of those things. The idea was to form a partnership with Scott, and I might get a bit emotional here in a minute because he passed away a couple years ago. Scott, the idea was to form kind of a partnership so that it's like at any time that one of us was, and this will sound kind of weirdly metaphorical, but one of us was weak, the other one could be strong. And we could always get projects out, and we could take on more and more work and do better things. It worked really, really well for a lot of years. And he started getting sick. I didn't realize just how sick he was getting. And then it seemed like within a matter of years, he was like not bedridden, but more ill than he was letting on.
Oh, wow.
And then he passed rather suddenly, shocked pretty much everyone, myself. I was devastated. And at that same time, my contract for DC Comics had kind of lapsed. And we were in the process of kind of rebuilding our standing with DC because we'd had some issues with some shipping problems. And so when he passed, because the contract was in lapse, DC decided not to renew that contract.
Oh, wow.
So at that time, I had been working for DC full time. Like that was all I was doing. So it was like, okay, well, it's back in, just like being an actor, it's time to go get that waiter job.
Right.
So I went right back in to doing graphic design and illustration again. And it was during this period, I have a creator-owned series, a web series I do with a writer named Al Sparrow called Red Skirts.
Right.
And I was working.
Which is fabulous.
We love
by the
it.
way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Red Skirts is very much a labor of love. It's so much fun to work on that series, and it's so much fun to talk to people who love it as much as Al and I do.
Right.
And I get to do all these fun things like I draw my dogs into it, but I will draw my friends' dogs into it. So when you see all the dogs and the
Dogs with
cats,
cameos.
yeah, when you see them running around like in uniforms, like performing functions, that's either that's someone's pet,
Right.
And it's because we had a conversation. I was like, "Your dog is so cool," and then they wind up in Red Skirts next week. But no, it's been a real labor of love. And as I was working on that, I've been friends with Eric Alexander for a very, very long time, who's the editor on Occupants. We met through the Fans Comic Con circuit, and we have always talked about doing a project together. Like there's been always that.
Oh, yeah, we should
running-
do something.
We should do
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
We should. And so we were having a discussion about Red Skirts one night. He's like, we've got this cool project we're working on. And he started describing it to me. He's like, do you think it would be something you would be interested in? And I haven't done anything. Red Skirts is a labor of love, and a lot of people, really enjoy it. But it's not like a mainstream, thing right now. It's kind of a fun underground kind of title.
Right.
And I thought, would it be
It's a niche
interesting?
thing.
Yeah, and I thought it'd be interesting to do something that's a little bit more standard, mainstream. And I've never done anything that's a thriller.
Right.
Like that's, doesn't involve a lot of guns and superpowers. So,
Right.
Or martial arts. So, he started talking about this project, and it sounded interesting. And I said, well, yeah, let's look at it. And we kind of came to an agreement about it. And he put me in touch with Russell, and that's how I came on board with Occupants. So,
Wow.
Yeah, this one was November 2015, I think?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's been fairly recent then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
When was the comic book expo where we met you?
Oh,
good heavens.
That was in.
That was April.
Was that
Was it
April?
April?
Yeah,
April.
April.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, we were at, I guess we were at the same event, but different times.
Well, yeah.
Well, we
Well,
were-
Ours was like
Cottonwood-
October
the
2015.
we met
Cottonwood,
at the
yeah.
cotton.
Yeah, we all met at we met
Cottonwood,
at
yeah.
the Cottonwood Expo in April. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, that's when we saw the the videos.
Right,
And
right.
the testimonials.
We got in
And
touch
that's
with, we
where
were
you
talking
got
to
in
Eric.
touch.
And
Oh,
then
That's
got in
when
touch
we
with-
met Eric.
Yeah.
That was in April?
Yeah, that was in
Yeah.
April.
20.
We met Eric and we met Dave, and they were giving this little panel, and Keith and I thought that was just. It was the idea of a movie and a comic book tie-in that really got our attention.
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to pursue talking to you and
Yeah.
learning more about Occupants of the movie.
Right. It was, and that, you know.
And
And
thank you for
since then-
showing up at Phoenix
Yeah.
Comic Con too. I mean, the
Well,
Phoenix
of course we're
Comic-Con
going to show up at Comic-Con. I
Yeah.
mean, this is our home.
Right.
I mean, so
Right.
it's in our backyard.
So you said something during the panel that you were kind of challenged to do some really different work than what you've done in the past on this comic book, and so I guess you put some new tool sets in your belt, shall we say, some new tools in your belt.
Yeah, it's with the way Occupants worked, it was a crowd-funded title, and as a part of the reward program, you could pledge $20 in order to get a cameo.
I wish we'd known
And I know
about
Russell-
that.
Yeah, if we'd known about it,
'Cause
we
they
would have
were-
pledged a
They
long
were
time ago.
closed. They were, it was
Yeah,
it was
it's
already
right.
closed
This
when
was
it,
before we met.
right.
Yeah.
This was before.
Yeah.
And I yes, it was my fault. I understand that.
No,
I
no,
did
no,
not
I-
put
you-
did not
you
put a
keep-
limit.
It's one of those things. I tell everyone this story, and then Russell's reaction is like, "It's my fault. I'm sorry."
Don't
It's
be
not.
ashamed.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of
not
amusing.
So we
Yeah.
only drew 90 people into this.
Yeah.
Okay, so it gives you an
Lord.
excuse to do a lot of crowd scenes.
It's as a part of it, you could basically for $20, you could get drawn into the book in a
Right.
cameo role.
Right.
And typically those roles are like background action kind of characters, like if you're looking at it in terms of film.
Right.
And you usually have a lot of bystanders and people standing around. I have never worked on a book, and again, this is not a complaint, Russell. I'm just talking honestly. I have never in my entire career worked on a book that had so many specific people on it.
Wow.
Ever. I've
You
never.
could, you
even
could draw
heard.
real generic people all the
Yeah,
time.
I-
You could have filled the
but
crowd with
specifics.
generic people.
I've never
but-
even because like sometimes like you've got a crowd scene and someone will draw their friends in there for fun.
Right. Right.
But I mean, I don't have one scene like that. I've got multiple scenes like that, and it's
90 people. It's like
Yeah,
it's an 18-page book.
yeah, it is a lot of people. But the thing that's also the flip side of that I've learned to appreciate too is those people that paid that $20 that got drawn into that book. Like that book's important to them.
Exactly.
And I've talked to a few people this today, and what I was most shocked at is that they're talking about this Occupants book with the reverence that people talk about like Frank Miller's Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it's like in my mind I'm like, no, it's not the same thing. But to them, they're in the book.
Exactly.
They're a part of the book.
Exactly.
So it's like
So it's a big deal.
yeah, it's that kind of connection that sometimes takes years and years and years in order to develop, and these people already have a love and a familiarity with it, and that's special.
Right. And if
So-
they're comic book fans, and to be in a comic book, that is like, I would think
Well, that's
the
like for a Star
epitome
Trek
of-
fan to actually have a background scene. You're just
Exactly,
walking down the
yeah.
hall,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Some people are like, "Can you take my character in the comic book and put us into the sequel?"
Oh, wow.
Are they asking that now?
They are.
Oh, dear.
They are
Wow.
actually.
Wow.
Okay, that's an additional pledge.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes. But
That's going to be a little bit more.
but not only do I want a film sequel, I want a comic book sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
It could be a huge franchise. I see.
There's a potential, and
Yeah.
right now we're riding the momentum. So
yeah, exactly.
Now, let me ask: has your technique in how you draw has that changed? Did it evolve? Did you have to take on new styles in illustrating in an attempt when working on this? I mean, did you find there was any change in how you actually drew this from before?
Right. To bring a long story short, I mean, yeah, my style has been evolving for quite some time. It kind of and I it's one of those weird things. I always bring things back to Scott, and he was so important in my life, and it's one of those things I'm still coming to grips with how important he was
Right.
in my life. And when we worked together, we had a specific way that we did things, and I have found over the last few years I want to do things differently, and it's not because what we were doing was wrong. it's just in a weird way, like I need to kind of move away from that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So my style has changed, and it is evolving. And I'm finding that my style is kind of more open, and to an extent, and that I'm hoping people can see that, even though it's your likeness. If you're in the book, it should hopefully look like you. But at the same point, I'm hoping it's open enough that people can see themselves in the characters at the same time.
Right.
Because and that's kind of more, again, that's kind of like a manga kind of approach. And that, again, came out of the discussions with Occupants. Because one of the things that Eric Alexander and I had a discussion about was, he wanted to evolve the style. And he wanted something. Robotech was the thing that we kept circling, was Robotech. And then
we did a whole... No, a long
Right.
story. But we've told you about the Robotech saga.
Yeah.
We don't need to revisit that.
Yeah.
No.
And then when I was talking to Russell, when Russell and I started talking, and Russell is a fan of film noir, and he wanted big black shadows and drama and tension and all those things that a thriller really needs. And that made me think of that made me think of Mike Mignola, who does Hellboy.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea with this book, and I don't think I was successful in this, but the idea was to take elements of manga, i.e. things you would have seen in Robotech in terms of the characters, and then turn around and marry it with like the shadows and the drama and the noir kind of feel that you would get from something like Hellboy.
Right.
But at the same point, have it be its own kind of unique thing. And it doesn't really look like anything I've ever drawn before. It looks like its own...
Right.
Yeah,
it's
yes,
its own
exactly.
thing, yeah.
I mean,
based on what we've seen.
Yeah, we've only seen just a few panels
Yeah.
already, and it doesn't look like anything that I've ever seen before.
Yeah, and then having seen some of your work up at Cottonwood, because we went over to the winery and saw your stuff, and what you drew for us, I mean, the things that you can just pull out of your head to draw, and then to see this is completely different than what you have done in the past. And,
Right,
and I
'cause
think it's great. I
with-
think it's great.
When you work for one of the companies like DC or Marvel, they kind of have house styles.
Right.
And they're either spoken rules or unspoken rule. Like right now,
God forbid that you should break any of them.
Yeah, and I know some of my colleagues might take me to task for this, but for a while there was an unspoken rule that at DC it was Jim Lee. Like the idea was to get close to Jim Lee, that should be the house style. Like before, the house style used to be Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, who's one of my heroes. But Garcia Lopez is the guy when you see the retro style Batman and Superman T-shirt art, or you see it on a lunch box or whatever. That's Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and so that was always that clearly identified style. And when you look at a lot of the books that came out of that period, everyone's doing their version of Garcia Lopez, and right now you have a lot of everyone doing their version of Jim Lee.
Right.
They're either getting closer to it or they're falling short. So to do something like this, where it was like the idea was like, well, just do something different. And I had already been moving in a really radical direction with Red Skirts, because Red Skirts is very much an animated cartoon. That's what Red Skirts is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's great.
It's supposed to be a feel-good Saturday morning good time, And the thing that's interesting about Occupants is in a weird way, Occupants benefits from that I was so far away from that other style.
Right.
Then
you
like,
could pick up something new.
Well, yeah,
Right.
but I think by doing something like Red Skirts, it's you're loosening yourself of the chains that that kind of artistic bondage that DC kind of enforced on you.
Well, they didn't really enforce it. It's like I said, it's an unspoken rule.
Right.
It's like if that's what the company's buying, then that's what you better be selling. It's it's kind of
because if you're not drawing it, they're not buying it.
I have a friend who tells a story who's one of my mentors. I would name him if I didn't think he'd get mad at me, but he told me a story once upon a time that he had these amazing sample pages, and he would go out and he would meet with the editors, back during the 90s. And he would show them these amazing pages, and they'd be like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, whatever. Everybody loves Gene Colan, but everybody wants Rob Liefeld. Or everyone wants Todd McFarlane.
Mm-hmm.
And so out of spite, he went back and drew pages trying to be them. Not really to prove a point he could break in, but to prove a point that's like, this is, silly. and then went in and you went, oh, this is great, and he got a gig.
And it was the same story with
yeah,
the different characters.
And that's the thing. If people want apple pie, if you want to pay the mortgage, you serve apple pie.
Well, I
I
understand that because I'm 55 years old, and when I kind of got into the whole DC Comics thing, I mean, at that time, like the artist du jour was Mike Grell, and then later, when I was in college,
who's still amazing.
Yeah, I love Mike Grell. But when I was in college, it was Keith Giffen.
Right.
So there's these artists that kind of typify a certain era, and it's like, oh, you have to draw like this person. You have to be like Keith. You got to be like Mike Grell. And I can sort of get that, but at the same time, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah. But I guess it's what people are buying. What the
what
studio is buying and what they're
was,
peddling. Yeah.
I wanted parallel apple pie.
Right. There you go.
You gave it to me, and I'm very, very happy with what you did.
Oh, well, thanks.
You got strawberry on one side and rhubarb on the other.
Yeah, exactly, a mix. Exactly.
Very, very true.
So here we are at Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fest, and of course today was the big party where you're finishing off the comic book tie-in. It is now done. We were in the room with you when it was finally done. How was that feeling?
It's one of those things. I'm going to say relief. There was a couple of times where I was, because again, I'm still maintaining a day job at the same time.
Right. So
I could,
the old
I
days.
could create the illusion, that whatever, but so it's been difficult. I find it incredibly rewarding too. So it's not, there's not a lot of negative coming out of it. There's a lot of gratitude. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Russell's been a tremendously incredible collaborative partner on this, allowing me to have leeway sometimes where it helps me to get something done, but at the same point too, allowing me to kind of interject a little bit of kind of my personality here and there.
Okay.
But at the same point, making sure that we're on target, that it fits within the occupants universe.
Right.
And been incredibly gracious and incredibly understanding. But it is a tremendous sense of relief because there was a couple of days there where, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning and I've got to, I'm going to get 3 hours of sleep and I got to get to work, and it's, it can be hard. And that's the part of the independent comic book publishing part of the industry that I think sometimes that's where people sometimes kind of not really lose their dedication or discipline, but that's the part that breaks you down.
Right.
And you can look at it one of two things. You can look at it as a forge, and it's going to make you stronger, or it'll break you.
Right.
Well, I think that's pretty much it is with anybody that's of an independent creation nature, whether it's a comic book artist or a filmmaker, because or a couple of podcast people, because we've got full-time jobs.
We just hit 100 episodes, and
congratulations.
the last couple of weeks we've been kind of saying, oh my Lord, it's almost becoming a grind, and it's a chore, but it's things like this and talking to people that are excited about what they do that makes us excited, because then we break out and say, wow, we've really talked to people that are excited about what they're doing.
Right.
Well, and just to echo something in reference to podcasting, we have some amazing creators that are still with us that are aging.
Right.
And then we're losing incredible creators like at a scary rate. And like just I think it was today or yesterday, Steve Dillon passed away.
Yes, I just read that this morning.
He was only 54.
54,
Right.
yeah.
54. And we have one of my things I love to listen to when I work late at night is podcasts. That's one of my things I love to listen to. And I have this one podcast, I cannot remember the name of the show, but they actually filmed a live in-room conversation. And one of the people there was Dick Giordano, which, of course, was a longtime Batman editor, DC editor. I think at one time he was publisher. He was kind of the man behind, Watchmen to an extent, Dark Knight Returns. Like, a lot of these things were under his watch.
Right.
But he also had tremendous runs as an inker, working with Neil Adams on, Green Lantern and Green Arrow.
That's how
the
I'm
Hard
familiar with
Traveling
him.
Heroes. Tremendous artist, but in terms of a creative professional, because at one time I think he was editor or publisher over at Charlton. So we're also talking about this man's responsible for Captain Atom, Blue Beetle, Sarge Steel, and such an amazing legacy. The only people who cared enough to talk to Dick Giordano and record his thoughts, about those days were when they would record those panels.
Right.
And I have this one that to me it's almost like gold, and I love to listen to it over and over again. He's telling the stories about those days.
Oh, wow.
When he's talking to Alan Moore.
Right.
And he's like, well, we just got the rights to the Charlton characters back, and I kind of don't want to do this. But if you turn them into your own, it could be something else. And then Watchmen comes out of that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I know Alan Moore's upset that DC didn't do him right in the contract, and I don't want to get into that. But the thing that is really cool is that a podcaster recorded Dick Giordano's thoughts. And as far as I know, that's the only verbal history we have of Dick Giordano talking about his perspective on his career.
Right, right.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it performs a very important function when you're talking in terms of history and perspective, specifically in this particular genre.
Right,
so,
because I think this is a new thing for this genre, and where those artists, they weren't on radio shows, they weren't on TV shows, they weren't on anything else, but the podcasters that are genre podcasters have picked this up. I mean, we've talked to Brian Augustin a number of times, but we haven't had him on the show.
We're still working on that.
We're still, he said, "Oh yeah, I guess I call anytime." It's like
yeah.
kind of like with
and,
you,
and
it just hasn't worked.
And that's another one of those people that's one of those elder statesman creators,
right?
And to be able to have a hand and along these same lines, and this is something unusual I learned recently. I was reading a collection of Buck Roger comic strips, like the newspaper strips from the 1930s to the 1940s.
That's old stuff.
Yeah, and
but classic.
I love Golden Age stuff. And in the beginning of it, they have this retrospective, and they talk about the art of Buck Rogers and the artists that worked on it. And one of the artists they talk about is an artist by the name of Dick Calkins. And eventually, what happened was when he left Buck Rogers, he drew it for a very long time. When he left it, he bought a ranch in Tucson and basically went out and was running this ranch. And I had always heard these stories about Dick Sprang having at one time lived in Tucson. And I'm going to be doing the Tucson Comic-Con coming up. And I thought, I love to have factoids when I'm talking to people and be like, Dick Sprang used to live in Tucson. Like it's like a fun little thing to throw to people that are from the area they may not be familiar with. And I thought, well, let me pull up his obituary and read his obituary and see what it says about him and maybe where he was at the time that he passed. I was shocked to discover that when Dick Sprang passed away, he was in Prescott. Now, I live in Prescott Valley, Arizona. I've never heard any, and this is the scary thing. I've heard so many people over the years when I talk to them, they talk about this Batman artist that lived in Prescott. Now, Brett Blevins, a fantastic artist and comic artist and as well as storyboard artist, worked on Batman the Animated Series. So when people said this, I assume they're talking about Brett. Like, I just assume that's who they're talking about. Now I'm beginning to realize, holy cow, they might have been talking about Dick Sprang. And as I dug further into his history, not only was he in the area, he lived in Sedona for a little while.
Oh, wow.
And he actually developed an affinity for hiking Western trails. He became an aficionado and a bit of a historian. There's actually apparently like tapes that are the oral history of the area.
Wow.
And he was actually, I guess, had a hand in actually helping to discover part of the Anasazi ruins.
Wow.
Oh,
like
really?
Incredible. Wow.
Like, what?
Wow.
Like, so
that's not
pretty
just
cool.
a comic book artist.
Yeah, no
He's
kidding.
an archaeologist.
Yeah, exactly. He's part comic book artist, part Indiana Jones.
and that was like an amazing thing to learn, and that's why I love podcasts and podcasting and people who do what you do, because it performs a very necessary function. It preserves aspects of history.
Perverts.
Yes. I'm thinking preserves. You have to excuse me. I have had a little bit to drink.
That's okay.
Because
You've earned it.
I'm finally able to relax.
I'm free.
Yeah. But I find it to be important.
Yeah.
Just for me personally.
Well,
so
it's amazing. That's why we allow people to go. We let the conversation go wherever it goes, because I can't tell you how many crazy stories we have heard from people We just talked to a guy recently whose grandfather had been in the film business forever, and his grandfather was the guy that
Gene Kelly
handed the umbrella to at the end of Singing in the Rain. He just as a
we were
cameo
talking
role. That came out of his interview, and it's like, okay,
I didn't know
that is the most bizarre.
Well,
That's cool.
and it's far out to know. I mean, especially here in Arizona. I mean, the Anasazi Indians. I mean, that's such an important historical aspect to the state, and to know that Dick Spring had something to do with the finding of those ruins.
It's amazing because it's like now there's this whole extra dimension to the man. Because I have so much respect because when people think of that definitive version of Batman, when we're talking about the Golden Age, without the yellow oval behind the bat, I mean, that's Dick Sprang. And a lot of times, even when people aren't meaning to, that's what they're trying to draw.
Right.
I saw actually something posted the other day on Facebook, and it was like this evolution of comic book art. And it had the different divisions between the responsibilities. The editor, the penciler.
Yeah.
If you notice, they're doing it's Bob Kane to an extent, but it's very heavily influenced by Dick Sprang.
Wow.
And that's the thing that's so amazing is the legacy that I go, oh yeah, the comics legacy, he's got that. And I'm like, he's got this whole other legacy? And that was the thing I was most amazed at. But it's like, wow, so it's like, so if I could somehow find this, I could actually hear him talk. Like if I could somehow find these tapes and listen to him, I could hear what he actually sounded like, and so I just find that these kind of podcasting and these kind of things, they're preserving aspects of kind of our culture and our history that is
that's missing. I mean, I heard many months ago. I was in Fort Worth, and I think it was. I tend to listen if I don't get Sirius in the car. I tend to listen to the NPR station, and there was an interview with Stan Lee. And he was telling some stories that I had never heard before. And it was like, wow, it's incredible. I mean, the stories that he has to tell, as well as all these other people. And I thought, that is really amazing to hear these people that have been in the business that you know nothing about.
Yeah, and the business has not been exactly fair for the aging artists either. I mean, they've gotten some really bad deals, and they tend to be forgotten. Yep. Because it's not like a movie star where everybody wants to get that interview. They want to have that little statement that they can flash on to whatever news article or on TV Guide or whatever. So to be able to sit down and talk to these people now and record the voices, record their thoughts, record their memories, I think really is there's just so much to be learned and so much to be appreciated by with you and Stan Lee or the Mike Grell or Steve Dillon, what these people have done for the business, because I remember growing up, I wanted to get a Superman comic. My parents, that's for kids. You don't realize this is a legitimate art form,
right?
And it's almost like what we see here is like the present-day American version of what, maybe the Greek mythology was, like what Homer was writing or anything like that.
Oh, I like that. I like that comparison.
Well, and I think it's very important that comic books have become a thing again, and they've become respected, and thus artists like you, and then you could do this tie-in with this fabulous film.
I think that says a lot about what people think about the form itself now.
Exactly.
That this whole transmedia idea, I mean, I think this is something that we're going to be seeing a lot of in the future. I mean, transmedia, that's been going on a little bit now for a few years, in some form or another, music bands working with authors, things like that. But now we've got this going on, and I've seen it in Star Trek as well. So I think we're seeing something that could really blow up into something just unbelievably massive.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as the filmmaker, I think it's very fascinating, building a franchise.
Oh,
and you're continuing. Dave here has continued the story of Occupants,
right,
and expanded the universe, and it brought.
Well, we did, because you wrote it. There's some we in there.
This is a collaborative effort.
It is a collaborative, yes.
But you were the the artist behind.
Well, in a way, now
Behind the story.
the way it worked, the way I understand it, is like, okay, so you wrote the story.
I wrote the comic book, yes, because I knew the film.
Okay, right.
So I knew I did not want to give away the film, but I also wanted to tell something new. So I did that, I think, out of necessity. But you're the artist. I'm just a writer.
But you directed him, didn't you?
I guess you could put it that way.
So,
yes.
in a sense, in a really, really weird way, you were director of the comic book, and
the
Dave,
film.
you were the cinematographer and the actor.
there you go.
Because you have to make all these people come to life off the page.
And
Exactly.
that's a pretty good example, because there were several instances where I would approach Russell with something. I'd send him a message, and I'd be like, that scene with Lee Mitchell, for example,
Which was
the one
Timothy
that
Lee
we've been
Connelly's character.
that
Yeah.
you've been having a lot of fun with him all day today about. That whole scene, because in the book it's like there's an explosion. I'm not going to give everything away. There's an explosion, and his character may or may not have perished. But then there's another character who we're following, who we eventually learn maybe didn't perish. But what I did is I decided, because in comics it's always better to show than tell, and in a book where people are talking so much, you want to give them something to be hopefully kind of doing. So I decided to have Lee rush at this particular character and knock her out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So in a weird way, it attributes to him like heroic motivation.
Right.
Like he's doing something heroic. He's helping to save her character. But at the same point, all I'm thinking of is like, okay, it's more dynamic that way.
Right.
But in a very real way, it does. It's like an actor's motivation. Wouldn't I try to save her life in this instance?
Right.
Unless
Right.
I'm a person of
Cowardice?
Yeah. And so, and then it's up to Russell to say, no, your character is a person of cowardice. You would not do that. You would, you would leave her to her own devices, or it'd be like, it's an interesting idea. Yeah, I could see your character, doing something heroic. Yeah, why don't you do that? And then in a way, when I'm sending him this text message saying, hey, what if this? And Russell goes, yeah, that'd be cool. And then you turn around and you put it in the book, and it does. It's
It is.
giving
It worked.
actors motivation,
Right.
to that character.
And
so.
it made him a hero. I loved it. I thought it was a
Right.
great idea.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it, and it was Dave here who had the
Yeah.
idea.
Well, as I said, it's kind of, I heard through the panel today that this was a huge collaboration
very.
between you, Russell, and Dave, and Al, and Eric,
Yeah.
and several other people that.
Well,
I
I would love to name them. Chris Winters,
Right,
who plays,
exactly,
Alan
exactly.
Peterson
So-
Jr. and
Yeah.
Timothy Lee Connelly,
Yeah,
and Nicole Morris. who
right.
plays
And
Nicole
you had all of that input, where most of the time a comic book is one
No,
or two
it's-
people.
Well, it's like Red Skirts is me and Al,
Right.
and and then when you're at DC, like when I was working at DC, I was working at Marvel. I mean, you've got the script, and your goal is to not deviate from the script at any time.
Right.
So if something is vague, 9 times out of 10 you leave it vague.
Right.
But I was pretty invested in this project. I wanted it to be successful. So
Right.
it's like where if I saw areas where it's like, this character's motivation
Well, because
seems
you've been in the
unclear,
industry,
and they've been standing around. Let's have this person do something,
Right.
And
This is
that's
very-
my
yeah.
initial thought is just let's just have this person do something to make it more dynamic because
This
they've
is
been
very
standing
mu-
around
yeah,
talking.
This is very much like an established actor, a very seasoned actor. Say like a Jack Nicholson, who you put him in with a movie, and it's like, really, it would be interesting if the character did this.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Well, Dave, don't take up too much of your time because there's a party that's going on next door. Everybody's here in honor of you and in honor of Occupants of the movie. So, to close things up, let me just ask: is there any presence on social media? Do you have a website? If anybody wants to learn more about you, what you're working on, either with Occupants of the movie or independently, how can they do that?
I'm on Twitter at Dave B Comics, I believe. And this is the part where I always kind of draw a blank. I think I'm on Twitter at Dave B Cartoonist, because I always jostle back and forth between calling myself a comic book artist, an illustrator, or a cartoonist. Because there's a weird thing where it's like, technically it all is a form of cartooning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it, depending on who you're talking to, you say the wrong term and they go, It's kind of like a considered lesser.
Which is really
Right.
just ridiculous.
right.
Because
So-
I have nothing but the highest respect for anybody who works in the industry.
Yeah. So, but I believe that on Twitter I'm Dave B. Cartoonist, and then I am on Facebook. You just do a search for Dave Beatty. My little icon, little character avatar thing or whatever. You could probably tell it's me because it's either a comic book character, or whatever. But yeah, Facebook. I'm pretty active on Facebook. So any one of those places. So yeah, and then as I'm working on projects like Occupants or Red Skirts or whatever, I'm always trying to post about it so people know. So yeah.
Very nice. Wow.
And thank you for having me on the show. This is really cool.
It was a pleasure. I mean,
Absolute
you
pleasure,
shared
yeah.
some really great information with us. It was wonderful to listen to you talk.
And thanks for having Russell here.
Well,
Russ,
Oh, yeah.
tell
I'm just
us
happy-
more about Occupants, where it can be found.
Well, first, I'm just happy Dave was finally able to come on to the
Yeah,
program.
yeah.
And podcasting really has helped Occupants. In its infancy,
Yeah.
you came on to us, and
Right.
I was very grateful. So
We
thank
should
you.
probably we
We've
should
been
probably
glad to be a part of it.
yeah, we should probably also ask the question for anybody who wants to read the comic book tie-in. When will that be available, and how can they get it?
Yes.
In a couple weeks, we'll be printing the first run, and we are talking, I think, through Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
is where,
cool. Let us
it can be
know, and
available. we'll let
we'll
you
run
know right
something,
now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll be happy to
We'll put a
announce
widget
that.
on the website.
Yeah, but also go to occupantsthemovie.com. That's occupants, plural, themovie.com, and you will see the comic book information on there as well as the film.
Great.
What's been going on.
Excellent.
Super. Thank you, Dave and Russ,
Thank
for
you.
being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Someone's been listening to this show a little bit too much.
Just a little bit too much.
I didn't know I could still make that sound.
That was so in the zone. That was so well done. So
It's
good.
harder when you're driving.
Oh, man.
Here are a few selected birthdays for October 24th through October 30th. And yes, I did check the website for calendar for birthdays.
Yay.
This time. How about that? October 24th, F. Murray Abraham.
Salieri.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's that guy.
Well, as well as a number of other.
Yes, he
lots
was
of
in
wonderful things.
Nemesis? No, not Nemesis. Insurrection.
Insurrection.
Yep.
Insurrection.
Waffle.
Yes, and also on October 24th, J.P. Richardson.
Hello, baby.
Yes, also known as the Big Bopper.
Ah.
October 25th,
One of my favorite lead singers
John Anderson.
of the band, formerly of the band,
Formerly
yes.
of the band, yes.
Now of the band, Anderson, Rabin, Wakeman. And we'll be seeing them
Really?
in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, in a couple
far
weeks,
out?
yeah. Also, October 25th, Pablo Picasso.
Right.
How about that?
All right.
Georges Bizet.
Berlioz. Sorry.
No.
No,
not
wow,
Berlioz,
nice.
Bizet.
Oh, I got that reference. That
Thank
was a
you.
Star Trek reference.
Thank
Yeah. Bizet.
you. Berlioz.
Also on October 25th, Johann Strauss.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
October 26th, Seth MacFarlane. Carrie Elwes. Oh.
The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
I couldn't. The Bridesmaids Princess? What?
Bridesmaids Princess.
Wow, that's a,
I
that
don't
was.
know.
I think that was a Cinemax movie, and I don't know.
No, I don't think it
But-
was Cinemax. I think
but,
that was the other one that had the 3 X's in it.
But Carrie Elwes is
Wow.
Carrie Elwes is now retired and living as a king in Patagonia. So that's very exciting.
Really?
No, it's from the Inconceivable. Inconceivable. This word you keep using. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Anyway.
Let's just do the Princess Bride as a radio play.
Inconceivable.
Prepare to die.
Yes. Also on October 26th, Jackie Coogan.
Why do I know that name?
Uncle Fester.
Oh, sure.
Uncle
Okay.
Fester.
Yeah.
The original Uncle Fester.
The original.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't even know who played the.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher
I think, played
Lloyd.
it, but then
Okay.
I think somebody else played it in the second one. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
No, was it Christopher
Was
Lloyd?
it?
in
I
both?
believe
okay.
I would.
I don't
Yes,
know.
it was.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Proving it again, I don't know what I'm talking
Yes. And last but not least, on October 26th, Domenico Scarlatti. He was a famous composer in the
Yes.
1600s.
Yes.
October 27th, John Cleese.
about. No.
Of course.
And Robert Picardo. We're going to actually.
Ah,
Are we getting an interview with him?
I don't know.
my favorite
Hopefully
hologram
someday.
ever.
Is he
Someday.
around this weekend?
No.
I don't know.
Oh,
whether
darn
he,
it.
You know, he might make an appearance. You
He
know?
might make an appearance. If it is, it's very unannounced.
Yeah,
Okay.
very unannounced. Also, Niccolo Paganini, who had extremely large hands, so he could write the violin concertos
capriccios.
and the 24 caprices.
I have some
Yes,
themes
God,
and variations on Paganini.
Yeah. Also,
Good friend, Alice Harper.
Alice Harper.
Yes.
October 28th, Jonas Salk.
Vaccine.
Thank you, Jonas.
And Elsa Lanchester and Miguel Gonzalez. That should be an N in there, in that name. So Gonzalez, a friend of ours.
I didn't write that.
Yes. No, I did. You know how I type. October 29th, Winona Ryder.
She's in the Upside Down.
Yeah.
She is in the Upside Down.
the Upside
I love
Down,
that show.
yes.
That was so good.
And Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh.
October 30th, Grace Slick.
We were.
Hey.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. John Adams, Mario Ortiz.
Wait,
who's-
which John Adams?
John Adams, the original John.
Oh, not the
John
Oh,
Adams.
not the composer.
No.
The political figure from
Yes.
American history.
Yes,
Okay.
second president of the United
Okay, I
States.
wasn't sure if you were referring to the composer or not.
He makes good beer, too.
Yes. Well, his cousin.
The degenerate
Yes.
Sam Adams.
Sam Adams. Also on October 30th, Mario Ortiz, who is associated with Beyond
Beyond the Impact.
And October 30th, Pablo Absento, a filmmaker from Japan. And she has turned out a couple of really good things. So that is it for the birthdays.
Wow,
this
that music
time.
lasted longer than I expected.
Yeah.
There is no band.
There is no band. It's on a loop, in case you hadn't noticed. So, thank you very much.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
And it was funny to watch Chuck actually lip sync to that one.
I don't listen to that all that much. I hear it from on your show.
You always.
There's irony to this.
And I think Chuck will appreciate this. I actually have canned unicorn meat on my shelf in my office, and the canned dragon meat from Thinking. The canned unicorn meat is probably, I don't know, what was it, 5 years ago when it came out, maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't laughed that hard on, like, just reading.
It's
I loved
in
it.
parts. It's like,
Yeah, but just like 1,000% sprinkles, and I bought like 20 of those and gave them to all my little cousins in their stockings for Christmas. We got a
There's
really big
something
pan.
really demented about that.
Yeah, but it's my family,
Okay, never mind.
so they were in.
They get it.
I hear Voldemort ate some of that, too,
Yeah.
just to stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the canned stuff. He ate the fresh stuff.
Unicorn, the other white meat. But
drank the
they love
blood.
it. That's right. But yeah, but I love, and it still makes me laugh. It's just I love that product. Thank you, Think Geek.
Yep. So go give a listen to our friends Chuck and Craig over at Technorama.
Rama.
Rama.
Bloody Vikings.
And now, everybody knows that music is our listener feedback.
Holy shnikes, we got a lot of it.
And actually, the biggest part is from one source only.
From
Looky, the twins.
Yay, we love the twins.
We love the twins, although I'd still want to see something come from Shagmar. That'd be funny. That'd be nice. Yeah, the fourth twin. The twin we never talk about.
Yeah.
Anyway, when we were talking to Stephen Manley in episode 99, he
Yes.
mentioned how his grandfather actually, he was working in Hollywood and appears in the movie Singing in the Rain. Right at the end of the title song, when Gene Kelly hands some guy,
Random guy his umbrella.
he hands him his umbrella. That is Stephen Manley's grandfather.
Ah.
So, Lookie said,
Neat.
nice anecdote about Singing in the Rain. Recall you mentioned enjoying the movie, and we'll probably have fun looking for that appearance. Next time you sit down to watch the movie, thanks for... and then they say, thanks for time to mention the show, their show. How nice. We've added a series to the channel, Teletime, to feature reviews of retro TV titles from the 40s and 70s. First round will feature a look at the series One Step Beyond. I haven't seen that
1959 to 1960.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. And then they added, mentioning this is because this is an offbeat bit of Star Trek-related franchise trivia, which might be of interest since you mentioned Star Trek at the 53-minute, 23 seconds in the podcast episode and enjoy the franchise in general. Now, from this point, I'm going to be imitating them. William Shatner, actor, who plays Captain Kirk, the character, in the original Star Trek 1966-1969 series, and in later movies featuring the character of Captain Kirk, makes an early appearance in One Step Beyond. Another Star Trek franchise actor who appears in One Step Beyond is character actor William Shatner, who later played both roles in Star Trek Niels Barris in Trouble with Tribbles and in Star Trek Deep Space Nine in 1993.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know about that one.
No.
Yeah.
Viewers who check out the series One Step Beyond will spot a lot of familiar faces in early roles. Some of the earlier performers who appear in the series include Charles Bronson, Jack Lord, Elizabeth Montgomery, Cloris Leachman, Warren Beatty, Joan Fontaine, and Christopher
Wow,
Lee.
what
I
an
know.
incubator, kind
Yeah.
of like Twilight Zone.
Well, Twilight Zone
Yeah,
did the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, Shatner from Twilight Zone.
It's
and-
on the wing.
Yeah, well, he was in several Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah.
And
He was in
Nimoy was too.
Yeah.
the one with the what was it?
The Gremlin.
The gremlin. on
But
the
there
wing,
was a fortune
and
telling.
The fortune
Yes,
telling
the
thing
little-
in the
the-
diner.
Yeah,
Yes,
and watch
yes.
him go completely insane while
Yeah.
while using that was just really great acting
Yeah.
on his part. And it was
Oh,
also
DeForest Kelly's also in the Twilight Zone.
yes, a lot of them got their break
Divorced
there.
Kelly.
DeForest. DeForest.
The forest,
I
the
think he-
forest.
I think he was divorced, but not when he shot the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, just don't see DeForest for the trees.
Oh, no. Now take his mic away.
Also, Yvette Mimieux, she played Weena in The Time Machine.
Oh,
The
yeah.
H.G. Wells Time Machine. And then there was Andrea Morell, who was Professor Quatermass in The Quatermass and the Pit. Patrick McNee, best known for his role in The Avengers, among others. And then, of course, then there was a little talk about Westworld. Just a side note to mention that Anthony Hopkins, who plays Dr. Ford in Westworld, is on Twitter as of October this year. His Twitter feed is at Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, and I just followed him just after reading that comment. And now I'm just going to throw something out here that the twins should call in or Skype in on our Skype line
Yes.
and leave us the feedback.
Yes. Now, why can't the twins? Yes. Okay, twins, you're listening. Please Skype into our show. You know,
TG
leave a
Geeks.
voicemail.
Yeah, TG Geeks.
You hear the number all the time. Leave a voicemail for us. We will play it. Seriously.
Yeah.
And then also in regards to episode 99, we got a good, nice little feedback from Christy Hartman. You remember Christy
Dr.
from...
Christy
It seems like we were
Yeah.
just sitting here with her.
it does, doesn't
That
it?
was
Yeah.
like 6 months ago.
Yeah. She says,
Less than 6 months ago.
I finally got a chance to listen. What a great interview. What an interesting history. Also glad you two fine gentlemen are enjoying Westworld as much as I am, and we are loving,
Oh my God, Westworld is just
loving
incredible.
Westworld.
Okay, gotta play catch up on that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
me too.
yeah.
I want to see. It's just been crazy.
It is
I'm- yeah.
so good, and that series is already. I mean, we're into episode 3,
Yeah.
and it is just running away like
Just
mad.
gone nuts.
And then we got a nice little message from Tommy Cannon, and he actually shared our episode 99
Yay.
on Facebook, and he said these TG guys are boss awesome.
Yay, thank
So
you.
we thank you for that, Tommy. And then last time we also talked. Last week we ran an episode about. Ran a story how Pixar created a very, very serious animated short called Borrowed Time. Two of the filmmakers that worked on Brave worked on this during their free time. It is deadly serious. There's nothing funny about it. It's beautifully animated, but it is like, it's dark. It's very dark. It's very serious. And it's winning festival awards all over the place.
Yeah, in fact, Greg Hall from Phoenix Film Festival.
Yes.
Audra's husband.
Audra's husband.
Commented that they showed it at Phoenix Film Festival this year.
Yeah,
so.
it's really enormously popular. And
The weird thing is, for Jonathan and Chuck, that we've known Audra for 20 years.
I've known Audra. I've
for-
known Audra longer than I've known Keith, and
I've known her mother longer than I've known
You,
him.
yeah, you said that in the last show or one of the recent
And the
ones.
thing
Yeah,
is-
I get them all mixed up because we were just driving back from San Diego this week and listened to like 5 of your shows at once.
Oh dear.
And not in the right order.
and you and there's no brain damage. I'm shocked.
But But Greg, they got married. Oh, they got married 15 years ago, and at Phoenix Comic Con this year, we put the 2 and 2 together. That he's Greg Hall from Phoenix Film Festival, the programmer for Phoenix Film Festival. It's like,
wow.
Hello.
I know. It's like, it's a small world after all. Really?
We didn't know.
We had no idea. Anyway, we got some good feedback about the short Borrowed Time. And for anybody who wants to see it, it will be in the show notes for this episode on our website at dggeeks.com. And so we got some feedback from Kurt Armbruster. He says, that Pixar doing this kind of thing. This does tend to be Pixar's MO. And then he included a cute little, it's like a 7-minute or 7-second video of Bart Simpson getting his heart ripped out. Just as, to kind of show what it meant. And then I got a comment from a very old friend of mine, Jim Fleckenstein. I need to give some backstory on this guy. Years ago, I used to be a Mormon, and I was a Mormon missionary. Jim was my missionary companion at one time.
Okay.
And we actually bumped into each other again at the San Diego Film Festival.
Yeah.
And he actually made a deliberate attempt to be in attendance for the GLBT block that we sponsored because he knew we were going to be there.
All right.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, he left a message on our website, and it says, I'd never heard of Borrowed Time. Now I want to see it. Thanks for mentioning it. Anyone around 50 years old and under were probably raised on PBS children's shows, Muppets, and animation. I think animation is a great way to present short films, especially with the current abilities of computer animation and editing software. Short films are limited by budgets, but with animation, any scenario dreamed up by the creator can be created on the computer without massive budget increases. And then he left an additional comment on our Twitter feed, and he says, in this film, the direction and cinematography were amazing. I was a little underwhelmed with the story. It was not on par with the visuals and the Pixar name, but still a great effort, and I hope we see a lot more short films come from Pixar. Well, that's how they got their start.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Their short films are incredible.
That's how they got their start. I mean, the first really big one was Luxo Jr.
Yeah.
And
then
that
they
just...
did
that was a proof of concept, I think.
Right.
Also,
It was,
wasn't it?
basically, to
Yeah.
show
Right.
that computer
Yeah,
animation was a viable
exactly.
form.
And they did the what was the Scope or Crest commercials?
Yeah.
the Scope commercials.
Well, they did
was it
Crest, but they did Scrubbing Bubbles.
Pubbing Scrubbles?
Yeah, that one. I can't remember what that one was, but it was a cleanser commercial.
Yeah.
Scrubbing Bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, scrubbing
Pubbing
bubbles.
Scrubbles.
Say that
Yeah,
3
but
times fast.
What was the brand?
Scrubbing Bubbles.
Scrubbing bubbles.
That's not what it said on the can. That was their the mascot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, good ad program there.
Luxo.
Scrubbing
Scrubbing bubbles.
It is
now.
now.
I'm thinking.
Interesting. Lucky is just tweeting.
It's
like
one of those
crazy.
things you hear it and go, "Oh yeah, that's right."
I think it was, wasn't it?
I
Scrubbing
thought it
bubbles?
was Scrubbing Bubbles.
No, that's the mascot. That's not the brand name.
Oh, no.
It was some cleanser.
Yeah, it was a spray on foam, and it would foam up.
Yep.
It wasn't Ajax. That's a scouring cleanser.
I can't recall. Are you?
Toilet
darn it.
boy. Scrubbing
It
bubbles.
wasn't Tidy Bowl.
It was Scrubbing Bubbles.
That's what the actual
Scrubbing
product.
Bubbles, yeah. Mega Shower Foamer by Scrubbing Bubbles. Value back.
I'll be darned. I
How
did
about
not.
that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Scrubbing Bubbles.
I thought it had a brand name.
I thought it had a brand name too.
Let's go ahead and create one.
yeah.
There we go.
Well, we got one now.
That's true.
Bubbing Scrolls.
Yeah.
Wilford
Anyway.
Brimley.
Hey, after that.
Wilford
Now, what are
Brimley?
we talking about?
He's not dead yet.
No, he's not.
Who's that? Wilford Brimley? No. It's
And
like
if it
second year in a row, I said, I thought he was dead 10 years ago.
And I tell you, if it weren't for John Houseman, Wilford Brimley would be America's favorite old fart.
Because you did the exact same thing last year.
I know. Because I looked at it again and I thought he was dead.
We always say that.
Who else do you want to die?
They're starting their own Deadpool
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What's the over-under on Brimley making it to the end of the year?
Ooh.
No? Is that wrong?
Vegas odds.
Yeah.
Okay, then moving on anyway. We got a message from good friend Brian Weber, who writes, "Congrats to the Two Gay Geeks podcast on the 100th episode." And then we had a nice little chat about Star Trek in our 100th episode. And he writes, "I was born into Star Trek, perhaps literally if the story I was told as a kid, that my mom was watching the original series reruns in the hospital the day I was born, is true. I can't remember a time in my life where I've gone more than at most a few months without watching, reading, or playing something Trek related. I was 5 years old when Next Generation premiered, and I can remember.
Oh,
my God! Thank you for making me feel like the old fucker I really am.
Oh, this water's too spicy. I want to go home.
Get off my lawn, you!
Get off my starship.
Yeah, get off my cage, you front lawn. Anyway, going on, he says, I was 5 years old when TNG premiered, and I can remember watching a bit of DS9 with various members of my family, a little bit of Voyager 2. Enterprise, I largely watched alone when I bothered to watch it because of how work schedules and whatnot worked out. I've seen every Trek movie from 4 onward in theaters, and only Nemesis was without at least one blood or marriage-related family member. Yes, even 5. That day, my mom took me to the movies. I had to pick one. Star Trek V or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
You chose
I
poorly.
I chose poorly. Bravo, Brian. Points. The point is, this is a very Trek-oriented family. Not that we're in lockstep on things, of course. My mom... Lockstep. Lockstep.
Lockstop.
Lockstep.
Loki, stop.
My mom and stepdad do not care for DS9 at all. Por ejemplo, they hate the mere idea of Section 31, despite the fact that the show portrays them as antagonists for the heroes to thwart. I like Star Trek open bracket 2009 close bracket a lot more than my dad, though we both agree Into Darkness is dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. This is not to say I'm blind to its faults. I was too young to pick up on them at the time, of course. Things like the misogyny of Turnabout Intruder or the racism of Code of Honor for two massive, pulsating, oozing examples. And, of course, the fact that Gene's vision went from vision to dogma, which contributed to the mess that's seasons 1 and 2 of TNG, but also to the overall franchise
Tell us
problems.
how you really feel.
Yeah, no kidding, Brian. Don't hold back! But also to the overall franchise problems of the application of the Prime Directive, which really came to a head in Enterprise episode Dear Doctor, where the writers seemed to think we should cheer Crazy Pants, Archer, and Phlox for effectively dooming Ascension race to extinction based on a fundamental misunderstanding of evolution. And I'm sure Archer would have found some way to blame the Vulcans if he figured out he was wrong.
Exactly.
Love that.
I better
he's been holding
stop
this in for a
now. This post is already past the point where it's too long to read on the show.
Yeah, we
But
are.
wait!
There's more.
Brian's got more to say because he had to say something about Arrow.
Go on.
Can we just hurry it up and get to Curtis becoming Mr. Terrific already? I've been
Exactly.
waiting for this ever since early last season when they showed us one of the T-spheres. As for Supergirl, I'm loving the new Superman, the best live-action one we've had since Christopher Reeve.
Yay.
Wow.
And he's absolutely right. In fact,
We were talking about this at dinner.
we were talking about a little bit earlier that I think Christopher Reeve, his Superman is like pre-New 52 from the comic books. And
No, not Christopher Reeve. The guy playing Superman on Supergirl is pre-52.
That's, yeah, he's
Yeah,
pre-52. Henry
And
Cavill,
is Rebirth.
he's Rebirth.
Yeah.
But who would be then New 52? Oh, I don't. Let's not even go down that
Yeah,
road
no.
because that Superman was
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
So then, anyway, moving on, we got a nice comment from good friend Mark Biaggi, who writes, "Congratulations on your centennial episode! Such a milestone! Well done! And here's to the next 100. Rays of glass and some fine single malt."
Centurion.
Yes. Now, and we're not going to talk about this now. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but we did run the trailer for Wolverine 3. Hold on. that will be
That's in the next-
coming up
that's
in
in
the
the
next
next
segment.
segment.
So we will talk about it. But we got a comment from Eric Alexander. He is a good friend of ours, and you may remember we talked to him at Phoenix Comic Con.
Yes.
He's with Occupants, and he's
the comic book tie-in. He's the
and the
editor.
comic book tie-in, and he simply writes, "Looks interesting for sure." And then we got a comment from Hamish Downey. He actually sent this to us. He sent us this insane YouTube
Oh my
video
gosh. It
called
was something.
Dates and Picard by a guy named Pogo.
I saw that. I didn't click on it.
Oh my
It's-
gosh.
It's mad.
Is it?
It's mad. It's crazy.
It's totally insane. We're obviously we can't play it here on the show. It will be in the show notes for this episode. People, please watch this.
It
is
is incredible.
absolutely insanely great. I loved it. Anyway, Hamish Downey says something you, Keith, And Ben might love, if you haven't seen it already, I really love Pogo's Disney remixes, so when I saw this in my YouTube subscription box, I thought of the two of you.
It was.
It's nuts. It's
It
one
is.
guy who is like playing, he's mostly Picard, and then he puts on the yellow face paint to become Data, and he has the facial expressions down just right.
Wow.
He squints his eyes just a little bit so that he looks like Patrick Stewart, but then he opens his eyes really, really wide and has a completely different facial expression when he's playing Data.
Huh.
And it's all to this insane remix of nothing but dialogue bits that both Picard and Data have said throughout the series of TNG. It is
That sounds fun.
wild.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
You have to see it.
And that's it for the feedback.
That's it for the feedback. Well, thank you to everybody who have commented on our episodes. We want to hear from you. If you have something to say, if you like our show, or if you dislike something about our show or our website, please let us know. We want to know about it. You can comment on our episodes at tggeeks.com. You can comment on our Facebook page or our YouTube articles, or you can call our listener feedback line.
The one that's on the sign over there?
The one that's on the
one
sign
that's on the
over
sign
here.
that's here in our
Yeah.
hotel room.
What was that? 469 TG Geeks? I'm looking around here. 469-844-3357.
3357.
World's biggest cue
Hi,
card.
this is Rusty Manuel, director of PJ, The Legends of Messiah and Occupant, and you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks podcast.
Okay, and as I mentioned during the feedback, just a couple of days ago, actually yesterday as of when we are recording this episode right now, so this would have been on Thursday, we ran the new trailer for Wolverine 3 Logan. So, now, Jonathan, you've been like chomping at the bit to talk about this trailer.
You wouldn't let me talk about it at dinner.
No, because we want to save it for the
We
show.
were going to talk about it now.
We wanted to talk about this
Enthusiasm
now.
will not wane just because I'm filled with joy and meatloaf. I mean, look, Wolverine, I think anybody that loves comic books, we love Wolverine.
Yep.
I think anybody that loves comic books hated the first origin story, Wolverine, with the Deadpool. That was terrible.
Oh
And-
yeah,
and
everybody,
Wolverine-
everyone
right.
trashed that.
But then the last one, the Wolverine, I loved.
Yes.
So I thought it was great. And then tying that into Days of Future Past, but I think anyone that's read the comic books, the minute this opens and you realize they're telling some sort of version of Old Man Logan,
Yeah,
I got a little tingly.
you and everybody.
Yeah.
It was a very vibranium moment.
Mhm.
And the I mean, look, it you know,
Vibranium?
it's one of those things where it really looks like who's directing it.
Doesn't really.
It doesn't really
say.
matter. It looks like they're really taking a somber, dramatic approach to this last installment, which I actually think it really should be. I mean, Hugh Jackman's been Wolverine for 15, 16
Far
years.
too long.
Yeah.
And has been really game.
I think
you
he's
know?
older than us.
Yeah. What? I don't know. But and
I
has
remember
It's
when.
being directed by James Mangold.
okay.
Remember when?
I remember when Synthahol cost a nickel. So it just looks, you know, having Patrick Stewart come back in to play an ailing Xavier, the even the artwork where he's holding her hand and the claws look pitted
Right.
and used, and this dystopian future, it just looks so good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very, very excited for this, and if it is half as good as it looks, and if it's nearly as good as the Wolverine, although I hope it's better, it's just a great way for Hugh Jackman to do sort of a bow.
It's a nice way for him to have a swan song.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna play not necessarily devil's advocate,
A
but
little bit.
just a more of curiosity. Wolverine is without question, probably the most popular of all the X-Men characters.
I'd agree to that. Yep.
And yet, when Old Man Logan came out, that took the world by storm. Fans loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
Why would they eat up a comic book where they see their favorite character like at the end of his days?
Oh, I think it's because there was always so much. I mean, I can only talk about me personally, because you're so fascinated with the idea of a guy that, remember, until Old Man Logan, because depending on the continuity or whatever, but like Wolverine showed up before they redid Guardians of the Galaxy. The movie is not based on the movie. Guardians of the Galaxy is not based on.
It's not based on the comic book.
It's based on a version,
very, very loosely.
But like the late '80s, early '90s, like Wolverine shows up in the Guardians of the Galaxy,
based on an idea by.
But Wolverine shows up in a lot of distant future things, not necessarily in continuity over the years in the comic books. And I remember Wolverine showing up in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and so when they say no, this is his final story, because there's so much mystery to a guy that could possibly live forever and not age, especially in the comic books. You don't, he doesn't age.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this character that we love, where there may be no end, to see how it ends, you kind of love that. We all want closure. It's a sense of closure, even if it's bittersweet. But also with comic books, they could just change the timeline or whatever, and that's not, Old Man Logan ends up not being a thing anyway in the comic book.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Kind of like they do in the movies.
Right.
Wipe it away.
Reason.
You don't like it.
But it's a great.
Find someone else to play the part.
But if it's anywhere near, if they actually follow, and I would think with Hugh Jackman, he's going to make sure anybody involved in this respects the property.
Right.
Kind of like a Spock thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think 20th Century, who's are doing this film, they've really messed up.
Yeah.
When it comes to X-Men properties. I mean, X-Men 3, although I do know a few people that liked it. Crazy Joe. He loved it. I don't know why.
That's right. They call him Crazy Joe.
Yeah, I hated X-Men 3.
You have to know Crazy Joe.
You have to know Crazy Joe.
I think I know enough.
I hated X-Men 3, and yeah, that first Wolverine movie was just
terrible.
Terrible. But since then, 20th Century has just been, I think, incredibly strong when it comes to the various X-Men properties. And it's like they've realized, our fans, they want a certain level of quality.
They haven't figured that out, though, with Fantastic Four.
No one can do Fantastic Four, let's be real.
See, I think people could do Fantastic Four, but you have to love the property, and they're not getting people that love the property involved with the property. It's like, we touched on this earlier. There's a reason Deadpool was as good as it was, and that reason was Ryan Reynolds, and not because that was the role he was made to play. It's because he loves and respects that property
Right.
so much. And when you get people involved in a property that love it or don't love the property, Zack Snyder, it shows.
I'm sorry, John. What was that again? I didn't quite catch that.
I think he sneezed.
Zack Snyder is a bag of things I'm not allowed to say on this podcast.
Thank you for keeping it PG.
I know.
Oh, Crazy Joe's going to have a cow on that one.
Bring it on, Crazy Joe. You don't know where I live.
He lives in Los Angeles.
I have a card here.
Hey.
With
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, read his address.
Actually,
and a phone number.
No. Don't read the number, but go ahead and read the address.
All right, it says Jonathan Latt, Space Pirate, Intergalactic Amalgamated.
X625V, New America Road / Cube 6B. Cydonia, Mars.
I'll be waiting for you, Crazy Joe.
Z0592.
That's the new zip code.
If I know Joe, he's actually going to be giving money to Virgin Atlantic to help with the rocket, the space, the air.
This is Crazy Joe. I need to talk to Elon Musk. I got to go kill me a writer. It's just an opinion, Crazy Joe. And by the way, they're the ones calling you Crazy Joe.
Well,
that's
his name. That's his name.
That's his name.
That is his name, Crazy Joe.
That's not his actual
No,
name,
but he
that's
goes
what
by the name of Crazy Joe.
Good for
He
you,
calls
Crazy
himself
Joe.
Crazy.
He calls himself Crazy.
Oh, well, that's
and
comforting.
then Joe knows that he and I do not agree at all on Batman versus Superman. He loved it. I did not. And, we've battled already on that one.
Fair enough. Well, like I said, Zack Snyder should have stopped making movies after 300. That was just my opinion. Crazy Joe. Just saying.
They said that about our podcast too. You should have stopped after 300. Now we're
And
coming
you're
up
now
on 5
427.
No, 489 is
Oh,
coming
my
up.
God.
Wow, congratulations.
I think we joined at
That's
427
amazing.
or something.
But I'm just very excited for Logan to bring this full circle. It just looks like they nailed the tone. It's always hard to tell from a preview or trailer, but we were just saying go check out the Red Band trailer, which gets a little more Logan-y.
Don't doubt it.
Yeah. And so I'm hoping it's a respectful conclusion to Hugh Jackman's run as the character, which has been great.
I've understood that there's a good chance of this movie being rated R.
Well, I think that's where the studios go, oh, Deadpool was rated R, let's make this rated R.
Yeah.
But Wolverine should always have been rated R. Wolverine is
He's a very violent
gritty,
character.
right, and that's what I'm
Gritty,
saying. You know?
violent, gritty character.
Yeah, so I don't look at it as trying to cash in on the Deadpool thing, which is what a lot of people are saying, but that's where it came from. Oh, superhero movies can be rated R?
Hmm.
You know?
I like
Hey,
that.
look
As
at
long
that.
as you build a herdal.
Yeah. It's
So-
the Clerfug. Or whatever. Here, Chuck, feel my tiny hand.
Enough of that.
Wow, I wonder how this feels.
It's the two gay geeks after dark in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So, what will this mean for the X-Men franchise in the future, I wonder?
Well, again, also look at what Age of Apocalypse did, which was kind of make it seem like maybe this is the last one. Because for a while, because wasn't it they were saying we're doing a major storyline from every decade? So, because Age of Apocalypse was what, the 80s? 90s
Right.
storyline.
Right.
Days of Future Past was the 70s.
Yes.
X-Men First Class, I could have said that was like the 60s. So where do they go with the 90s? Maybe Extinction Agenda. I don't know.
They go to a Nirvana concert.
Hey, man.
Yeah, there you go.
No, the 90s would have been the first X-Men movie.
True, but everything got retconned
That's
after
true.
Days of Future Past. So Extinction Agenda was a great run it crossed X Factor, X-Men, and New Mutants, which ended up creating X-Force.
Well, there is in the story that we ran for this, there is talk about them doing an X-23. So, because that's what the little girl possibly represents, the next generation of mutants.
But remember, Logan takes place in the future, so they could do another X-Men movie. You
Yeah.
know? But if Logan in the trailer is saying they're all dead,
So-
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was
That's kind of a down-
interesting.
that's
But
kind of a
obviously they're
downer.
not all dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Are
So-
they ever?
Well, he
So-
didn't know
yeah.
about the girl.
Well, that's true.
Right.
So, and it's about a genetics organization. Is that? There's
What?
some genetics something
In the
or other?
trailer?
Oh, there is yes, there is a genetics organization. What they're trying to get mutants to turn them into weapons.
There was
trying to weaponize them.
right off the freeway in Seattle. There's this place with these big smokestacks. It's Zemogenetics.
Well, that doesn't sound evil at all.
Yeah. Now the movie's set in.
Zemo Genetics,
Yeah.
I think. ZYMO.
Yeah, the
Genetics
movie's set in 2024,
or something.
and there is a shady. Are you done?
Not yet.
Oh,
Just my-
I'll be quiet.
I'm just derailing you.
Uh-huh.
Again.
Again. A shady corporation called Transigen is turning mutant children into weapons. So that's where Logan comes in to try and protect this little girl who we really don't know what her mutant power is, although it seems to be that it's like.
She's a lot like you, Logan.
Yeah, well, that can mean anything.
I mean, it's his daughter.
She's got adamantium for bones.
Yeah, she got claws.
Yeah,
or
it
she's
could be
just a
anything.
hyper-violent psychopath.
Or maybe she just has.
And wouldn't that
most,
be it?
or maybe she just smokes
That's
cigars.
adorable.
Oh, I'd like to see the smoking the cigar bit. Yeah, that'd be really cute. She looks a little bit like 11, I noticed,
What are
from
you doing,
Stranger
bub?
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
So
Logan, get in the cage.
So maybe she doesn't age, or she's come back after being from the.
She's like 42.
Yeah, except without aging.
Yeah.
So this is the girl
I
from
just had
Stranger
a dream
Things.
about
This is
something
the
like that
tie-in.
last night.
Yeah.
Huh?
I just had a dream about something like that last night. You know, Progerius, where the kids age
Yeah, yeah.
rapidly.
Yeah, yeah.
What if you had the reverse of that?
Benjamin
What if-
Button.
I was gonna
No,
say that.
Benjamin Button reversed backwards.
True.
This is like a kid who's
Reverse
6 years old,
backwards.
but he's really 60 years old. So, like, for every 1 year they age,
Wasn't that?
I woke up at like 2 in the morning
was it-
with this idea.
That was how Jonathan Winters aged on Mork and Mindy.
Well, that was something.
There's a lot of science.
I thought that was a Red Dwarf episode where everything was backwards.
Well, that was the
it was.
backwards
He's right.
world.
It's Mork and Mindy.
Well, no, John. The whole thing on Orc was that people age backwards because nobody wants to look after old people, but everybody loves babies.
But there was a Red Dwarf episode called Backwards that touched on that.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
everybody aged backwards.
yeah. They throw up their food.
Yeah.
While they're eating. Yeah.
So where
and
were
then the
we-
cat went off into the
Where were we
into
with
the woods
Wolverine?
and-
Whoa, looks
We're
good.
off
Looks
the
good.
rails. Yeah.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Two thumbs up.
Okay, I was going to say that. Now, Chuck, you just had a chance to watch a trailer. What did you think?
I thought it was very interesting. Like you said, it starts out with all the mutants are dead. Like, well, are they? But I do like the theme of this is the conclusion of the Wolverine story.
Mhm.
So you got to set it in the future. Nice to see Professor Xavier in there, although he's looking a little disheveled
He's
over
not
the years.
looking very good
no,
either.
I think we
Worse
saw
for
him
wear.
lying down, not in a hospital bed, but should have been.
Yeah.
I've been fooled by trailers before, so
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't tell the number of times we've seen a trailer that looked absolutely amazing and then watched the movie and like, oh, what was that?
Yeah, the trailer was better.
the trailer was the best thing in the movie.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like those cheap cardboard pizzas where the box was better than the pizza.
Exactly.
But again, I really think that Hugh Jackman has taken a much stronger hand in terms of, like with Origins Wolverine. I think he just went along for the ride. You know what I mean? Which
Is he
why
involved with any of the writing or production or directing or any of this?
I think he's certainly more involved in terms of, I don't know about production, directing, or writing, but it's like, no, guys, we need to make sure we respect the source material, which is why the Wolverine was so good. I think he was so upset with himself after Origins came out that he went, okay, the next one.
Well, a whole generation knows Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Right. So
It's like Leonard Nimoy is the Spock again.
Right, but that's
Gerard Perel.
right, it's the Spock thing.
That's his brand.
and I think he wants that to
Exactly.
be remembered well. And I
I
think
can
he's got the
appreciate that.
juice with Fox to go, no, we're going to respect the source material, which is why I really think it's probably going to be as good as I hope. It's like when I saw the
I
Wonder
expect it to be good.
Yeah, it's like when I saw the Wonder Woman trailer for the first time, and I went, "Oh, please be as good as I hope," and I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know. But also one of the things that struck me that was we were watching it. I was watching it for like the third or fourth time. Was remember the movie Children of Men?
Yes.
It sort of has a Children of Man feel to it in terms of tone, which I think is a good tone, like this dark
Yeah.
but hopeful, somber thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one thing that really worries me about this. I for one am just like sick to death of dystopia. I'm really weary of it. I understand it needs to go down that road for the sake of this particular story.
Yeah.
I hope that they can crank out a more hopeful, optimistic ending and all of that. You know, and that's the thing about X-Men. It's been heading down that direction for some time now with the whole mutants versus norms or whatever you non-mutants, whatever you want to call them. Muggles.
Yeah, the Muggles.
Give it up, baby. There you go.
Now we're in sync.
We knew that was good.
Watch out.
Different studio.
You mentioned, what was it, Children of Men?
Mm-hmm.
It also had, the trailer anyway, had that vibe of, what was it, Automata?
Oh, yeah, that was good with Antonio
Oh,
Banderas.
yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then where they go way out in the heck and the big gorge and the bridge and the, yeah. So it sort of had that dystopian future feel to it with the outcasts and not quite a Mad Max feel.
I was
but it
thinking that, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think it's-
along
Mad
those
Max
lines.
is a
Like you
little-
said,
I mean, there's obviously still civilization.
right.
It's just they're hiding.
Yeah. Mad
You
Max
know,
is
so that's why
dystopia.
Yeah, so they're hiding. That's why they're living in a big cable spool or whatever that thing
Yeah, it
was
looked like
that
a
they
toppled
lived-
water
Yeah.
tower or something. I'm not sure
What the
what.
heck
We
was
didn't
that
get a
all
real good
about?
look at that.
So I'm very excited for it.
I'm very much looking forward to it, and that's going to be coming out, I think, around March of next year.
March 3, I believe, was what
Yeah.
the trailer said.
Yeah. So,
We have
well,
anything
that's
else?
it. No, that's about it.
As always, this is where everybody stops listening, the follow-up items. Turn it off. And we have a calendar on our website, various items like cons and film festivals and all that kind of stuff.
Well, some people listen to it. I mean, Tommy Cannon, he commented. He sent us an article about an upcoming event for next weekend.
Yeah, and which I need to put on the calendar.
Yeah.
Yep. And as you know by now, we are huge supporters of independent creators, such as Mr. Jonathan Ladd over here, who is creating independently things.
He's independently creating things?
I am independently
He's a
creating
one-man
things.
wrecking crew.
I've gone off book.
Independent creations and things.
Me and Crazy Joe, we're working on stuff.
Oh, no.
That's right.
Oh, dear Lord.
Gaze upon us in fear.
Yeah.
He said gays.
I did say gaze.
He gazed upon us. Anyway, so we do appreciate those independent creators. If you hear about an independent creator, whether it is a filmmaker or a comic book or a writer or artist or whatever kind of independent creator, and you hear that they're doing a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign or some kind of crowdfunding, please consider giving them,
Your support.
Your support.
Your money.
And yes, thank you for considering independent creators. Next weekend. Well, obviously, this past weekend.
It'll be this weekend by the time the
Just give him the date.
Or
this
it'll be
comes
the
out.
past weekend by the time this gets released.
Podcasts are time
Yes.
shifted. Give him the date.
Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fest. It was just done. But anyway, next weekend.
October 29th.
October 29th. Thank you. Cottonwood Comic Book Show in Cornerstone Church in Cottonwood, Arizona. Only $5. It's worth it. Go up there. They're going to have some local artists, and we're going to have a table there as well. Some of the special guests are Stephen Reed, Mike Gallagher, and Brian Augustin, who is actually the author of Flashpoint, as well as
Awesome.
A number of other Flash things. And what was it, Batman by Gaslight? Or
Yeah.
Gas-
He did
Oh, that
Batman
was a
Against
good one.
Yeah, that was his.
Yeah, that was his. So check out the article for more information.
Yes, and special thanks, as always, to the Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter. They publish the Doctor Who Fancast Guide, and you can find the Fancast Guide by searching at Talking Who on Twitter. And you heard from Brian Weber a little bit earlier today. He also puts out the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News. All you have to do is go to Twitter, look for Social Justice Scald. His handle is at Arkle. And, of course, he has the incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes on Tumblr, which we like to read. And here is one.
Especially since it's Robert Picardo's
Since
birthday.
it's Robert Picardo's birthday, we're going to say, the EMH, I want to see more of you around sickbay. 7 to 9. Fine, I'll gain weight. That never happened, people. That's what's called the incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes. And, of course, also must give thanks to Sci-Fi Obsession. They have lately been republishing like everything we ever put out. So thank you. That means more people read our stuff.
Yay.
They can be found at facebook.com/sci-fi-ob. That's SCIFIOB.
Or Skiffyob.
Skiffyob. Yeah, that too.
Skiffyob. And we want to give a shout out to the Lookie Show, obviously. The twins, they are wonderful. They give us wonderful feedback on our episodes and all kinds of wonderful trivia.
As you heard earlier.
As you heard earlier, you can find them on Twitter as at Lookie Show and catch their YouTube show. It is really fabulous. The twins, Sasha and Dagmar, are absolutely...
They are amazing.
They are amazing.
And they talk about such great movies.
Great movies, great commentary, great reviews of movies. Not just old movies, but some actually current movies.
Yeah, they're talking. Yeah, as I said, they're looking at doing some television stuff now too.
Check them out on Lookie Show on YouTube.
Yes. And must give a special shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. They have awesome people there. There is some incredible content there. And most of my Facebook wallpaper, which I don't have any right now at the point. forgot to load the latest batch. But I have downloaded a bunch from my computer. Phenomenal iPhone wallpaper. Anyway, you can see them by going to facebook.com/group/thegaygeek. With, as always, special thanks to the moderator, Jeremiah Reeves, for saying, okay, you can put your stuff here.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Yeah, thanks, Chuck, for the crowd roaring.
Don't you have an applause button on that thing?
I have an applause.
got lots
Here's
of
my-
buttons.
You have
my
a
applause.
Chuck.
Oh, wrong one. Where's the applause?
And
There it
that's
is.
why you use Chuck.
Oh, for a second I thought that was the iPad.
No.
It was Chuck.
I'm professional audience.
Yeah. And we want to remind you to occasionally click on our Amazon ads. You can find those at the bottom of each article and on the side. in the widgets, you can also find a widget for the geek
You can.
on the side of the website. So check it out. It is cheap on Amazon.
It is. Can I be shameless for a second?
Oh, sure.
Knock yourself out.
So yeah, go pick up The Geek. The audiobook will be out in early November. And if you live in Los Angeles, if you're listening to this, it's available at Skylight Books in paperback. So we don't have a lot of independent bookstores left. Skylight is awesome. They're in Los Feliz. They've turned me on to a lot of great books over the years. So if you want a great book, go into Skylight Books on Vermont Avenue. If you want a mediocre book, go into Skylight Books and get my book.
Stop!
No,
It's a great book.
Thank
It
you.
is. No,
If you're not
it's a
sure if
great
you want to
book.
buy it, go read the reviews on Amazon and go to my Goodreads page. But if you do live in Los Angeles, I do encourage you to go to Skylight, just because independent bookstores I think are really important.
Yep.
Yes.
Plus, it's right down the street from a diner called Fred 62 that does really good milkshakes.
Yay.
So it's a win-win.
Okay, next time we're done.
Oh no,
Yeah.
we'll go.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
crazy good.
Absolutely.
Next
Oh
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's available as an ebook everywhere.
And we were
Thank
talking about Amazon, so
Yeah.
that are pushing the independent bookstores out of business. But just
I do love Amazon, but to have a local bookstore, and it is
No,
Absolutely.
there's something to
Oh,
be
yeah,
said
yeah, yeah.
about the independent mom and pop
You bet.
bookstores. I
And-
really love them.
and they have a great counterculture section. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, if you're looking for something on ontological terrorism, it's a great place to go.
I heard they have a good culture counter section too.
They do have a good culture counter section.
culture counter.
Bacteria, nice.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway,
Penicillin.
check out the Amazon ads. And lastly, but not leastly,
Leastly?
Leastly.
Really?
And
Now-
lastly
Bigly.
is just as
Bigly.
offensive to me.
Yes.
Bigly. And Bigly, rate us on
He's all right.
iTunesly.
iTunesly. Yes. And
Pleasely,
we-
Rately, Usly, Icy, Tunesly.
Oh yeah.
This
thanks.
was this now Piglet.
Stop it. Okay.
I think we just sucked the professionalism right out of the room.
Up next time, my gosh, we got a lot in the can.
Yeah.
A bunch of episodes or a bunch
Bunch of interviews.
Interviews in the can. So I don't know which one we're going to release next week. We'll have to see.
Surprise.
Surprise. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. And thank you to Jonathan.
Thank you,
and
guys.
Thank you to Chuck
Oh, our
for
pleasure to have you
joining
guys.
us.
Thank you.
Where
in-
can they find you, Chuck?
Yes,
They can find Technorama at chuckchat.com.
chuckchat.com.
Love the
And-
alliteration.
And you, Jonathan, you have presence on social media.
I do. You can go to www.jonathanlatt.com. It's all the things you don't care about in one convenient location. So
How about that?
Instagram, Twitter, podcast.
You can check it all out.
Check it all out. It's
Connect
really,
with him there.
It's really cobbled together with zero to no care.
Forethought.
It's just
You
like,
should listen to his podcast.
yeah, it's a podcast.
It's a
just-
podcast about nothing.
if you want to listen to two guys just constantly go nearly off the rails, tune into the podcast. But we have a
sounds like
new
our
podcast launching in January, which is going to be just as Slipshod, but different topics. So yeah.
They can
More
afford
of the same, it sounds like.
Well,
Yeah.
it's me and you guys know Rob Palmer, the
Yeah.
filmmaker, who is the bro host on the podcast, and it's two morons talking about things they're not qualified to talk about.
It sounds like us.
Sounds like us.
No, you guys know what you're talking about. It's
No, we only pretend like we know what we're talking about.
Exactly. Like I
Speak for
said,
yourselves.
Like I told you the other day, I do know everything. It
You
may
do.
not all be correct,
Right.
but I do know everything.
but you're just it's the confidence level.
yes.
Yeah, I can BS my way through anything.
But if you want to be offended, tune into the podcast. I think,
Oh,
I
yes.
think Ben will tell you.
yes. They will offend everybody.
Yes, something about ovens at a bratwurst restaurant.
Look,
That's my favorite.
don't take a Jew to a German restaurant.
Oh,
Respect.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Okay. On that
more
note.
room for ovens back there.
On a side note,
Oh.
the Wiener Schnitzel was phenomenal. It really was. It was really good.
It's People! No.
Wiener Schnitzel's people. All right, sorry.
Send your hate mail to.
Just send it to me. So actually, send your hate mail to Crazy Joe.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why I'm picking on this poor guy.
Joe is a real sweetheart. I love Joe to death. I really do.
Name. I just love the name.
And to be honest, Joe is the nicest guy on the planet. I mean, yeah, he and I really disagreed about Batman versus Superman, but he's a real sweetheart. I love him to death, and I can't wait to finally meet him.
So.
Yep. Finally met him in person at Dragon Con.
Yeah, he's got lots of pictures on Facebook.
Yeah.
Great guy.
So anyway, that's it for the TG Geeks webcast. Be sure to check out the article for the webcast episode. We will have a number of links about different things that we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com. You can leave a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 844-3357.
You hear that, Sasha and Dagmar?
Yeah.
And Shagmar?
Yeah. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.